Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I'm standing on a yoga mat. If you don't happen to have one, fear not. Find a place in your house that's carpeted. Maybe you've got a rug that you can use as your yoga mat for today. I also have a folded blanket. It could be as simple as a big beach towel. A couple of blocks. Maybe you've got thick books. There's also opportunities to use things like the arm of your sofa for some of the things that we'll do today. And once you're ready, let's start. Standing in the bedrock of all poses, our mountain pose, feet hip distance, parallel, palms turn away from each other. We stand tall. And we stop so that we can start. We start to turn the arrows of attention inward as opposed to distractedly outward. We start to bring our awareness to the two directions of our breath. Our minds are capable of going a million different directions. If you're able to just breathe through your nose, that's ideal, but mostly I want you to breathe with this sense of awareness landing in our bodies, in our breath. Let's add a little movement. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Take your hands to your thighs for this first one. Traction your hands on your thighs as you inhale and lift your heart, and then exhale, increase the hinge at your hips. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V. And then pause, palms face out, we stand tall in our mountain. I'm facing the short edge of my mat. If you don't have a mat, you can imagine that that would be the way that you're facing. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Hands can come to your thighs. They might slide down to your shins or towards your ankles, but what I don't want is a rounding of your back. So if you're sliding lower, keep it a hip hinge. Easy for me to say. Inhale, uplift your heart, so maybe your hands slide up a bit. Exhale, fold back in. Remember, hip hinging in, and then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V. Stand in your mountain, palms face out. Adding on further, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. This time as you fold in, bend your knees deeply. Make sure your palms are flat and solid on your mat. Step back to our first down dog. Now, down dog is going to look different for all of us. Let's step our feet a little wider than hip distance. Bend our knees a lot so you're on the balls of your feet. Now, we don't want to bend our elbows out to the side and smush our shoulders and our ears together. So imagine spinning your inner upper arms away from you and allow your tailbone to lift high to the sky. That's probably easier to arrive at with a bend in your knees, so feel free to have that. You're oomping into your arms and you've got your hands spread wide. You can think of putting your hands in some clay and you want to make a full imprint of each hand. And then carefully walk yourself forward, feet to your hands. Inhale, hands to ankles, shins, thighs. Exhale, hinge at your hips and fold. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand in our mountain, palms facing out. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Exhale, fold in, palms flat, knees bent as deeply as you need for us to walk into our down dog. And you can keep your knees bent. You can start to move your legs a little towards straight. Remember, the priority is to keep a very long, strong spine. And then shift it towards a plank. And once you're in plank, bring your knees to your mat. Keep your toes curled under. Place shoulders over wrists. We're not collapsing our hips to the ground, and we're pushing the ground away, that instead of collapsed in the shoulders, we've got a sturdiness in our shoulders. Now shift a little bit forward and lower slowly with your elbows brushing your ribs all the way onto your belly. And once you're on your belly, uncurl your toes and press the tops of your feet down onto your mat. Make it Sphinx pose with your forearms parallel to the long edges of your mat. Feel as though you're pulling your elbows towards you so that your collarbones smile. Press into the tops of your feet so you activate your legs. We're going to try not to overuse our chin. Let your chin stay parallel to the ground. Then lower down, curl your toes under, come through all fours, and then into downward facing dog. And from your down dog, walk slowly, feet to your hands. Once you're there, inhale, lift your heart, hands to ankles, shins, thighs. Exhale, hinge at your hips. And then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, stand in your mountain, palms face out. Let's roll through that a couple of times. Sun salutation A, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs or shins or ankles, nice long spine. Inhale, lift your heart, bend your knees, hands go flat. We step to our down dog. There's the hook in our tailbone, really lengthening our spine. And then we shift to a plank with our shoulders over our wrists. Bring your knees to your mat, elbows brush your ribs as you come all the way onto your belly. Uncurl your toes. It could be Sphinx, or maybe you do Cobra, this time leaving your hands where they are. Lower down, curl your toes under, head through all fours, and then into down dog, lifting our hips. Find that hook in your tailbone. Walk your feet forward all the way to your hands. Lift your heart with your hands on your ankles, shins, or thighs. Exhale, fold it back in. And then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, stand into your mountain. Adding some new friends to our sun salutation. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs or your shins or your ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Palms flat, step to down dog. This time in your down dog, lift your right leg back behind you and then swoop it, right foot next to right thigh. For a lot of us, it's going to take a little helping along. Once we're here, you might bring your two blocks into the equation and take your blocks on either side of that right foot. I like to take mine tall, and then I can find the recipe of steering my right hip back and letting my left hip move forward just a little bit. We'll stay just as we are and begin to move that right leg towards straight. It doesn't need to straighten all the way out. We're looking for a hinge at our hip and that long spine. So I take my blocks pretty tall, affording me the opportunity to create some space. You might follow suit. 3 moments, just like this. Now bend your front knee, move your blocks off to the 2 sides of your mat so you can find your way to down dog, palms flat. The hook in our tailbone is lifting our hips to the sky. Now lift your left leg behind you and try to step it next to your left thumb. Feel free to help it along, hop it along. Take your 2 blocks, place them on either side of your left foot, and let's find the recipe of left hip back a bit. Right hip forward a bit. 2 more moments here. Then we work this left leg towards straight, remembering that a priority is a long spine and that we find this as a hinge at our hip. Stay and breathe. Three moments. Then rebend your front knee and take your blocks out of the way off to the sides. Find your way to your down dog. Remember, long spine is our priority. Walk forward slowly, all the way up to your hands. Inhale, hands on ankles, shins, thighs, as we uplift our heart. And then exhale, fold it back in, hinging. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we'll stand into our mountain. Standing on your left foot, tree pose, let's do it slowly. Hands on your hips. Stand on your left leg, take your right leg out in front of you, and from your right hip, let that leg turn out. And then you can tuck your toes like a kickstand. So this is option 1 for our tree pose. You can take it into your left shin, so right foot into left shin. Maybe there are 1 or 2 of us who take our right foot into our left inner thigh. We want to hug that outer left hip in. This is one of those moments where you might go to the wall, you might even go to your sofa and use the arm of your sofa. If it's feeling not super wobbly, you're finding your deep roots in your tree, you can widen your branches out to the side, thumbs to the sky, maybe even a V shape here. 2 silent moments in our tree. Hands on your hips, turn your right knee forward, step down into your mountain. You can think of it as from our mountain, we grow a tree. Hands on your hips. This time, stand upon your right leg. Take your left leg out in front of you, and from that hip joint, turn it out. So that's the external rotation. Don't worry, there's no quiz, but just so you know. And then we're letting our toes touch the ground if that works best. Or left foot into right shin, maybe left foot into right inner thigh, and we have that understanding of those 2 moving towards each other. Could be, if it's feeling pretty steady, that you're growing your branches, or perhaps you're allowing yourself to use the assist of your wall or the arm of your sofa. 3 silent moments in our tree. Hands on your hips, turn your left knee forward, step it down. I think you're going to want to use, at a minimum, your blocks tall. You might want to use the arm of your sofa for this next one. I'll bring my blocks right here so that it's pretty easy. Actually, I think this is the best angle for you to see me. We will now do as if doing a chair pose, bending our knees, and take right ankle on top of left thigh. So almost like that tree pose, but a bend in our left knee, hinging at our hip. Your hands are maybe on the sofa, or you take your hands on your blocks. We're still trying not to be rounded in our spine. So find a place that's high enough where you can curl your right toes back, get a stretch in your right hip, and feel length through your spine. And then bring your breath to this new shape. 3 moments. Firm through your belly. Bring yourself upright. Step down out of your figure 4 and give yourself a moment in your mountain. As if doing a chair pose, we now stand on our right leg, left ankle on top of right thigh, and then hinging at your hip, your hands can go to the arm of your sofa, to your tall blocks. You're curling your left toes back. You're maintaining that long spine and that deep breath. Three more moments together on this side with our stretch. Firm through your belly before we exit. Come upright, step that left foot hip distance from your right, and land in your mountain. We'll use our sun salutation to bring us to the floor. Move your blocks so that they don't end up right underneath your feet. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Bend your knees deeply enough that your palms go flat so that you can step back into that very long spine, our humble bow in our down dog. Now you'll lift your right leg behind you, step it through, lower your back knee. We're in a low lunge now. You're always welcome to use your folded blanket for this if you would rather. And then carefully walk your right foot over towards the left side of your mat. I like to sit down on one of my blocks to create what's called single pigeon. Now you may need to keep a bit of a bend in your left knee, that's fine, but eventually you can work that back leg towards straight. You're not trying to keep your shin parallel to the front edge of your mat necessarily. I want you to feel into your front knee and make sure that what we did in our tree pose and in our figure 4 that we just came out of feels to be happening in this right hip, in this new shape of it. You can stay upright. You might even walk your hands a little bit forward. Perhaps you use your book or block to do that. And then let's really let this become a stretch. I'm going to be silent for 30 seconds. So we'll stretch our attention as well as our bodies. Now, for our next transition, I want you to be mindful of how it feels on you. We'll take our left shin in front of our right shin in a seated cross-legged position. It might mean that you need to tend to some of your props. So I scoot up a little bit more on my block, and then I'm going to take my left shin in front of my right shin. I might stay seated on my block. I might move my block off to the side. And the other option is to sit on your folded blanket, but we've got left shin in front of right shin. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. And then perhaps you walk yourself a little bit forward in our cross-legged, seated stretch. Let this be a moment of meditation. Know that we're going to have another 30 seconds of silence. Now walk yourself up, swing around onto all fours. Once you're on all fours, position your hands, curl your toes under, let it become your down dog for a moment. Think of that hook, lifting your hips. And now left leg will lift, and we will step it forward, maybe help it along, and lower our back knee. Heel toe that left foot over to the right, possibly, likely, sit upon your block with your left hip. And remember, if you need a bend in that back knee, that's fine. We're moving it in the direction of feeling a bit straighter. And then perhaps you stay upright, or you can bring one of your books into the mix and lean a little bit forward. But I want you to have a conversation with your left knee and make sure that everything feels okay there. And then we will dive into our 30 seconds of silence here. Now, remember that this transition is mindful. You might stay upon your block. Your right leg is going to shift forward and cross in front of your left shin. You can do that on your block or off your block. You could do that seated on your blanket. Once you're situated with right shin in front of left shin, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Perhaps you walk yourself a little bit forward. You could do that with your block underneath your hands, and then we swim into our 30 seconds of silence here. And then bring yourself upright from this cross-legged stretch. Swing onto all fours once again. And from all fours, step into your plank position. Let your knees come to your mat and lower all the way down onto your belly. Take a Sphinx pose for a moment. Uncurl your toes, traction your elbows towards you. Feel your collarbones smile. And then roll over and lie down onto your back. Once you're lying on your back, you'll hug your right knee into your chest. And either flatten your left leg out onto the ground, or feel free to bend your left knee and put your left foot onto the ground. Lie your head down and begin to straighten your right leg for a hamstring stretch. And that might be hands sliding down the back of your right leg. And like I said, you can have your left leg straight if you'd like to. Let's enjoy a few moments where we are and breathe. Back of your head heavy on the ground. 30 seconds of silence in this shape. And now bend that right knee, stamp your right foot on the ground, hug your left knee into your chest. Feel free to straighten out that right leg if you want to. Slide your hands down the back of your left leg. Start to straighten that towards the sky and get your hamstring stretch. Drop in, pause and breathe. 30 seconds of silence in this shape. Now bend that left knee and place both of your feet on your mat, hip distance, palms flat. Press into your heels, into your feet, and gently lift your hips up for a bridge pose. Shimmy your shoulder blades underneath you. I like to hold the edges of my mat and feel as though I'm trying to pull my mat apart and pull my mat away from my head, and then gently lower down. Place a hand on your heart and a hand on your low belly for a moment. We will do one more of those bridge poses, so palms flat. Snuggle your shoulder blades towards one another. Lift your hips up. You can hold your mat and feel as though you're pulling your mat apart and as if you're pulling your mat away from your shoulders. 3 moments in our bridge. And then lower your hips to your mat. Take a twist, a supine, a lying down twist. Scoot your hips right. Let your knees drop to the left. You can cactus your arms or take your arms wide. And then come through center. Scoot your hips left. Let your knees drop to the right in your twist. Then bring yourself to center. Step your feet as wide as your mat. Let your knees fall in on each other as if knock-kneed. Gently lift your hips just an inch, not as high as our bridge. Create some space. Snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you. Either stay here for our Shavasana final meditation, or straighten one leg and then the other, and allow yourself to completely let go. You're welcome to close your eyes, cover your eyes. 2 minutes of silence here. You're welcome to stay here in your Shavasana final meditation for as long as you would like. If you're ready, wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe give yourself a stretch, arms and legs away from each other. Collect your knees carefully into your chest and roll to either side. Bring yourself to a comfortable way to sit. Maybe that's cross-legged, that could be seated in a chair or on your block. And just give yourself a moment to feel all the feels. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me.